Good evening, everybody. My name is Jim Derrick, and I am the Director of Family Recovery here at the Safe Coalition in Franklin. We are thrilled that you're here tonight for another one of our monthly webinar series, and we will share with you more details about future webinars very shortly. But tonight is an important topic. I know it's one that I'll be listening to. I certainly need it, and we're going to talk a lot about managing holiday, not just stress, but emotions around the holiday and getting some really good advice from Karen on how to navigate this holiday season at a time when it can be difficult. And those of you out there that it is difficult for, I understand, and just know that we appreciate that, and hopefully this webinar tonight will give you some tips and tools to get through the holidays and make them enjoyable. Just a little bit about the Safe Coalition. We're here at 31 Hayward Street in Franklin, Massachusetts. That's in the Mosley Mill complex. We are a business that is devoted to providing care and resources for people that are impacted by substance use disorder and or mental health concerns. All of our services are free of charge to the community, and that's something that's extremely important for you to know. There is no insurance required, no official referral through a healthcare provider, no finances will ever be asked for coming here. All of our services are free. I am the Director of Family Recovery. We know that every time an individual is impacted by substance misuse or mental health, has a mental health concern in the family, the entire family unit gets impacted. So my role and the role of our staff in family recovery is to come alongside of you, meet you where you're at, and provide you with some tools and some support so that you can get on your own path of recovery while your loved one is hopefully getting on their path. So you'll hear our number from time to time throughout tonight, but I'll give it to you right now. It's 508 488 8105. That's our number for support. You call into that support line and you can expect a call back within 48 business hours from one of our staff, and we'll connect you to services. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Well, as I mentioned before, tonight we're going to talk a lot about the holiday season, and I'm thrilled to bring to you a colleague of mine, Karen Bean, who is a licensed clinical social worker. And I'll turn it over to you now, Karen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen. Like Jim said, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I am going to be presenting on managing the holiday season, strategies for self-care. Um, and as Jim had said earlier, um, there's our information is here. SAFE is a nonprofit. It has our contact information. Um, and we are located in Franklin, and we have a judgment-free support for individuals impacted by substance use, mental health challenges, and related concerns. The best part is that we have a amazing team who are always willing to welcome anyone with open arms and see if we can provide supports. We have a plethora of available options, from support groups to individual counseling sessions to open houses on Fridays for people to come in and just learn about what we provide. So feel free to check out our website for everything that we offer. And so a little bit of our agenda today. We're going to go through some housekeeping. And cover an introduction. I have a little poem that I want to share with everybody. We'll move into prioritizing tasks for yourself, setting boundaries without the guilt. Then we'll move into an activity. And actually, if you guys want to prepare for that to come up, if you want to grab a pen and a paper, so you have that handy when we get to that, that would be great. If not, you can always do that offline as well after the presentation. And then we'll move into managing stress of the holiday, strategies for self-care, finding your joy, and then we'll go through the summary and the Q&A at the end. So if anybody has any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to submit that. There's a Q&A option on your screen, as well as there should be also a closed captioning option if you need that as well. Um, so I'll move in. That's a nice segue into the housekeeping as well. I just wanted to let everybody know if you need a break, please feel free, get up, move around, take a rest, whatever you need to do. We're recording this webinar and it will be posted on our website so that you can refer back to it if you miss any content. All right. So we'll segue right into my little poem here. It's called The Oak Tree. I don't know if anybody has ever heard it, but it kind of sits well with me. I use it often. So I'll just read it to you and then we'll process a little bit. A mighty wind blew night and day. It stole the oak tree's leaves away, then snapped its boughs and pulled its bark until the oak was tired and stark. But still the oak tree held its ground, while other trees fell all around. The weary wind gave up and spoke. How can you still be standing, oak? The oak tree said, I know that you can break each branch of mine in two, carry every leaf away, shake my limbs and make me sway. But I have roots stretched into the earth, growing stronger since my birth. You'll never touch them, for you see, they are the deepest part of me. Until today, I wasn't sure just how much I could endure, but now I've found, with thanks to you, I'm stronger than I ever knew. This poem is it gives me chills every time I read it because it highlights the strength that we all have in us to persevere with everything that life throws at us. Um, it kind of drives home that quote so far you have survived 100% of your worst days. And it helps to remind us that we're capable of making it, right, through hard times. And so I think it's important to note like holidays look different for everyone, right? Doesn't always match the holiday cheer that society really portrays around this time of year, right? It shows you see commercials with everybody joyous and celebrating and going to see lights and spending time with family. And that's not always the case for everyone. Um, so we're going to explore through this presentation ways to take care of your personal needs and look at strategies to boost your joy through the season when it feels challenging to do so. So the first component to this is working on prioritizing your tasks and needs. There's so much pressure to accomplish and attend to things around the holidays. How do we wrap our heads around it all and maintain a sense of wellness? So it's important to take time and just plan and think it through, right? So if you have a calendar, if you pick up a planner, make a to-do list, those are all things that are helpful to really process and kind of compile a list of, okay, well, this is what my usual schedule looks like. This is all the new added on expectations of the holidays, and you can kind of see it all in black and white in front of you. Once you do that and you have that list in front of you, then you want to you want to be thorough and take time to really include everything, right? So you want to assess that list, make sure you've included all your kids' activities if you have children, anything that your family wants you to attend, travel plans, works demands, whatever it is. And then at the end, when you have a complete list, you assess it and determine what is causing the most stress and what is kind of if there's anything in the list that would bring you joy or happiness. And then process through that. So when you're looking at your list, like figure out, okay, what on this list is a necessity, non-negotiable, I have to do it. Um, and what on this list is causing me the most stress? And if there's some crossover with that, sometimes we have to do things that create big stresses for us. Then you kind of have to think through, can I delegate some of this? Is it something that I can put off till after the holidays, a less stressful time? Can I ask for an extension if it's a work thing? And just really advocating for or considering what you might need in that moment. So as far as processing this, you may also want to, like, sometimes that's a lot for somebody, right? Like that's a lot of something to go through. you can lean on your supports. You can talk to your therapist if you have one. If you don't, you can try to get one. And we do, by the way, have that at SAFE. Um, so I think that it's important that you have somebody to sort of talk through this with if it feels overwhelming to do this task, because it's okay to ask for help through this as well. Um, and then oftentimes, too, like when you're looking at the list, some of the things on the list might be an expectation that you have of yourself that isn't realistic, right? So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do things that may not need to get done. And so you really have to look at it and figure out what feels like too much, what is necessary, and really dig through that. Um, Identify your limits and become comfortable with saying no. Um, but how do you say no? And how do you feel okay with that? Um, and so I think sometimes it's it's a very big guilt feeling when you say no to somebody, right? It's like, I've always done this every year. I have to do it. It's something that is expected of me. I just need to. I need to take care of other people. Um, and so dissecting saying no and setting your boundaries is really important, because even if it's something you've always done in the past, it's something that like is okay to shift. Things don't have to stay the same every year, right? Why do we have so much guilt? I guess you have to understand where that guilt's coming from, right? So is it because you're a people pleaser? Is it because you're afraid of conflict? Do you feel responsible for other people's happiness? And these can all feed feelings of guilt around setting boundaries for yourself, right? So you have to really think about what it is around saying no or setting a boundary that is impactful for you, and causing those feelings of guilt, to really get behind um, releasing that guilt and being okay with putting yourself first in these moments. I chose this picture of Luisa from Encanto. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that, but it's one of my favorite movies. She's the strong one in the movie. She's always got to do everything for everyone, and she ends up kind of having a meltdown in the movie. And I think it's a great depiction of, it's okay to say you can't do it all, right? Um, so prioritizing yourself is important, and at times it can feel selfish too, for somebody who's used to just giving and giving. But I think understanding that you are worth the same effort you're giving to other people for yourself. Um, okay. So I included here some examples of how to say no and set boundaries with kindness and care. I'm not going to read through them all, but they're just sort of sample words for how you might decline and ask for help, or plans that you really can't imagine fitting into your schedule without stress. One of my favorites, is just expressing gratitude, right? Like, thank you so much for thinking of me. I can't help this time, but, and then you can say, given an alternative, I can share resources, or maybe next week I'll be available, or maybe we can look at the new year and see what's coming. So those are some great examples of how you can set your boundaries without, you know, feeling rude. Okay, so to segue into the next act, this is the activity that I spoke about. You don't necessarily need the paper, but if you had a chance to grab one, put an example here. You would just write, these are conversation bubbles. You can just either write circles or these bubbles, making sure to leave white space on the paper behind them. I call that white space white noise. And it'll come together for you in a minute. Just going to give you the dictionary definition of white noise: a constant background noise, especially one that drowns out other sounds, meaningless or distracting commotion, hubbub, or chatter. So, in the white noise space of the paper, behind the bubbles, you're going to write down things that are not in your control. That might be causing stress around the holiday season or your daily life. So it could be the weather, world events, other people's responses, perceptions. anything that's causing you stress or anxiety. Um, and we'll stick with the example of, let's just say, other people's responses, right? So then we'll take that anxiety in the white noise section and we'll move into a bubble. And inside the bubble, with the example of other people's perceptions, you would write, explore, and then write what you could do in regards to that that's in your control. So whatever's in these bubbles are going to be things that are in your control. So for example, other people's responses and perceptions, something you can control around that is how you perceive it, right? How you receive it, your response to their response, or your actions leading up to that, and sort of taking the stance of you know, I'm happy with the way things are, so that's enough for me. Just kind of affirming statements like that. Um, and so this activity is very powerful to really identify what's causing stress around the holidays or any time. This activity can be done any time of the year. And then what is in your control? What can you pull your energy and focus into to really move away from the negative thoughts and worrying and spending energy on things that you can't do anything about, in essence, right? So I hope this activity is helpful. Please feel free to use it as your convenience outside of the session, outside of the webinar. I think it can be applied in many different ways, just on a daily basis. I've actually done this with my clients throughout the time that I've worked with them at different times in their journey, and it's applicable to many different things. I hope that was helpful for you. Okay, so once you've set up some realistic and attainable expectations for yourself, um, working to let go of things that you've determined either to delegate, to postpone, things that are not in your control, right? Things that you've decided to release. Um, you ask yourself, will this matter, right? I think it's important to note that oftentimes if a friend is going through something similar, right, and we're talking to our friends about it, we're often able to share with our friends great advice, right? But when it comes time for us to sit through it, it's really hard to apply that same thing that we just shared to a friend to our own life. And so I like to challenge people to really think about when you're feeling like the world is heavy and nobody gets it and you're just in it, right? Just to sit back and think, if my friend was going through this, if my sister, if my mother, if my relative, whoever it is, was going through something similar, what advice would I have for them? And just take a minute to reflect on that question and take the ownness off of you for a minute, because I think it's so hard sometimes to think about yourself, especially in the time of year of giving, right? We're supposed to be giving of ourselves to others, and a lot of this can feel very what's the word I'm looking for? Selfish. So it's not, though. It's very important to put yourself first in these situations, because if you keep giving, there's going to be, nothing left for you at the end. So I think that, you know, it's important to do that for yourself. And if you struggle with that as well, like reflecting on how you would help somebody else because you're just so into it, it's important to lean on supports, right? You always have to put your own mask, your own oxygen mask on first, lean on your supports, ask for help. These are things that are really hard for some people, but know that, if you don't have access to supports, if you don't ask for help, there's going to be a moment where somebody has to show up for you, right? And this presentation is more about showing up for yourself, because if you can't show up for yourself and ask for help and lean on supports and do the things to advocate for what you need, um, it's going to continue the cycle, right? And you have the ability to change that for yourself. by putting this work in. So some ideas to sort of build up supports if you struggle with this. I don't know if there's, if you're thinking, well, I don't have any supports, how can I do this, right? Um, there's community centers around, if, in certain age range, there's senior centers, there's youth groups, they're safe. There's plenty of organizations in your area. If you're not from here, they're everywhere, right? So just seek out um, organizations that are built for connection, and they're out there everywhere. And I would encourage you to sort of push yourself to get out there and build your supports, attend a class, do a craft workshop, find something that you want to do, and just put yourself out there so that you can start to build up that support for yourself. Okay, so moving into the strategies for self-care. Self-care is defined as the practice of actively taking steps towards your own physical, mental, and emotional health, involving conscious activities that promote well-being, prevent burnout, and help you cope with life's demands. This can be a variety of things depending on what your lifestyle and interests are. So this list kind of looks like, oh my gosh, like I'm already overwhelmed with the holidays. How am I going to do all of this? This is not helpful, right? But I promise it does not take much time. If you can prioritize setting the boundaries like we just talked about and really prioritize yourself through this time, these activities can all be combined and could take less than 5 to 10 minutes per day, right? So some examples are movement, creativity. So that can look different for everybody. If you like to get creative cooking, if you want to attend an art class, do a painting, drawing, whatever it is that you're into. You could also get creative with movement, right? So you could attend a dance class and there you go. That's two things in one, right? Spending some time with mindfulness. And this is something that a lot of people are like, oh, mindfulness, I'm so bad at that. I can't meditate, but it's not always just about meditation. Being mindful is kind of like what we talked about at the beginning, where it's like get a calendar, write down your things and be mindful about what you have coming up and planful. Or sit down on the couch with your cat, like in the picture, and take a minute to just reflect on your day, right? That's a moment of mindfulness. Um, and just having that kind of incorporated in your daily activities. Service to others, that's always a feel good one, right? Especially, I don't know, for me, that hits close to home. I feel good when I'm helping others. Um, Looking through the lens of your inner child. So oftentimes when we're adulting, it's not always easy to let go of the stressors of day-to-day life, right? But this is my friend Buddy the Elf, and he is he's something. So I think if you haven't seen that movie, you should. And it's a fun one. It'll help to bring out your inner child for sure. So reflecting on that for yourself, connecting with nature, making sure that you're putting good nutrition and hydration into your body, and reading and listening to something that you enjoy. So I think, like I said, a lot of these can be combined. Reading and listening to something you enjoy doesn't have, if you're not a reader, put on an audiobook, whatever that looks like for you. Some people multitask and do it on the drive home if they have a commute. That's considered, self-care too. Even though you're driving home, it can kind of podcasts or something listening to something effective on your way home can kind of multitask, right? Through that. Um, okay. So this last slide, or one of the last slides, is actually one of my favorites because how do we it kind of like helps to bring in that elf, Buddy the Elf, right? Again, it's that finding your joy. It's how do we rediscover joy, especially when things feel heavy, right? How do we really enjoy holidays when it just feels so heavy? It feels like I can't do this, right? we struggle with feeling happy, sometimes it's shifted when we prioritize our own needs. So if you follow the steps of this series of setting the boundaries and spending time on self-care and doing the mindfulness activities of like, you know, scheduling things out and being mindful of what you're going to accept and not. Um, it's already starting to shift when you do these little steps, but this is sort of the last piece of this whole process of enjoying the holidays is that, you know, if you truly don't have any good memories of the holiday season, it's really hard, like some of these things say, reflect on the things that have brought you joy over the years. But if you're somebody who doesn't have that, right, I think it's important to remember that it's okay that you may not have that. Just shift that a little bit. And instead of reflecting on things that have brought you joy, think about there may be a time where you were with a group of friends or with another family and you witnessed something that really brought joy to that family and you felt, wow, this would be really nice if I could do something like this. It's never too late to start a new tradition. So really kind of reviewing what you've scheduled for yourself in your planner and thinking outside the box of your typical normal holiday routine, right? And trying to pull in from these moments of joy that either you've felt sort of envious for or that you've had in your past and try to create that for yourself and make it a new tradition. Um, I think that it's important to just be open-minded around it, right? It doesn't have to fit into the typical holiday scheme either. Like it can be completely something new and something you invent, and then it becomes a big thing someday, right? And everybody's looking forward to it. Um, so just remember that, you know, it's always good to end the year on a positive note. So when we're sitting with negative thoughts and dread really of the holiday season, right? You're spending that energy on the negative, right? And so if we can kind of work to shift that and really reflect on the positive things, how can we shift this energy? How can we make something joyful happen for ourselves? Um, and bring some new memories in. You know, I think it's important to know that it can be a success. You do have that ability to shift your narrative a little bit. Um, and leaning into gratitude. You know, negative thoughts can really impact somebody's ability to feel joy around the season. So it's really important to sort of work on the mindset shift. Okay, so um, just to recap, the it all starts with you, right? Like there's so many ways we can work towards improving your overall holiday experience. Um, it's important to listen to what you need and to respond in a way that helps manage yourself. Remind yourself that the holiday stress is temporary, right? It's not forever and it goes by really fast. So if you can kind of really be mindful and planful around what you're allowing in, what you're tending to, who you're surrounding yourself with, you can get through. You've survived 100% of your holidays, and hopefully, with some of these tasks, you will thrive for your next one. Um, and that is my presentation. So I appreciate everybody who came in. I know that was probably quicker than anticipated, but I know we leave some time here for Q&As. So if there's any questions that anybody had, feel free. I don't know if I have access to that.
Yes, and we have opened the Q&A, so you can use the button at the bottom of your screen to submit questions, and we'll ask those and go in for a little discussion. I was just trying to get our view switched. I think, Karen, could you stop the sharing?
Yes.
Sorry, I thought we could share during this part, but there we
Yes.
go. Okay, so first one I have for you This person says, I feel pressured to act joyous and like the holidays are a cheery time so that I don't dampen others' joy. How do I support their joy when I don't feel the same way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it, like to my point before, it's not always going to be easy, right? And I think the important thing is understanding that, you know, your own joy, your own feelings around the holiday, your own, you know, struggles to manage, you know, it's important to approach it with curiosity, right? Like, and if somebody is really enjoying the holidays and you're feeling like you're going to, you know, bring people down or you're worried about all of these things, I think it's okay to look at what we've talked about, right? Like setting the boundaries. Is this something that you can feel like you can go to? Also, like, you know, asking if this is somebody that you're super close with, if it's a relative, you know, asking them, like, have you ever had a difficult holiday? How did you manage? And just sort of having an open conversation around it, just so that it can create that sort of connection between the two of you, and they can maybe have some words for you that might help you through that moment as well. But I think it's important also to think about when we approach these situations in the holidays, it's often pressure we put on ourselves, right? If we're invited to events, it's truly because people want us there, and and show up how you are, right? And so just letting yourself be open, but also if you truly feel like you need to set that boundary, being okay with that, right? And assessing that for yourself. So that's an important thing to take away for that.
Karen, can I make a comment?
Yeah,
That's okay with you?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Please do.
I thought that was a wonderful question. It's one that I've had personally, and I know a lot of people that I work with have. I think it's a
Yeah.
fantastic question. One of the things, strategies that I know that's worked for me was dropping my people pleasing set point a little bit and being honest with people. And
Mhm.
it's amazing how just, you know, a very quick, you know, holidays are tough for me, but I'm really glad I'm here.
I think Jim's
To
video
others to
might have
sort of
froze.
acknowledge others to acknowledge the fact that it's tough, and we can move on from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, absolutely, Jim. I think thank you for sharing that. I think it goes along with the, you know, just being vulnerable, right, with the people that you're close with,
Yeah,
if you're comfortable to do so, and
right.
just sharing your struggles. And sometimes it opens up that conversation with maybe they've had holidays that they've struggled through and they might have, you know,
Sure.
an ear to bend.
So kind of coming off of those two questions, I'm going to merge two questions together. How can people deal with the guilt and the discomfort that comes from saying no, or advice you have for helping people not avoid conflict? I'm a conflict avoider myself, and so sometimes I'll not honor my boundaries just to avoid the conflict. So, do you have advice for those feelings and how to manage them to make sure we are putting ourselves taking care of ourselves?
Yeah, I think that, you know, if you approach it like that slide I had given with the examples of, you know, how to say no with kindness, if you can really lean into that and try not to explain too much, right? Like, because if you're setting a boundary and you're saying like I can't make it. I'm sorry. I have too much on my plate and it's not going to be um something I can attend to this time, but maybe next time. Thank you so much for thinking of me, and just leave it at that. And then I think that the response to that, right? Like often if you're meeting them with kindness and you're open with them and honest, like Jim said before, just kind of being vulnerable, right? I think that that can help. Their response oftentimes is not going to be aggressive. They're not going to meet that with, you know, anger or disappointment. They'll be understanding for the most part. And so managing that, and I know some people, the guilt is innate, right? It's going to happen. You still feel that guilt around it, but it's a matter of doing the work to really prioritize yourself and and believe that you are worth this effort to put your needs first. Because without doing so, you know, it's not doing you any favors to not show up for yourself.
Karen, we have another question here
Sure.
from a participant. They ask, am I wrong for trying to explain to someone, sorry, I care for, that if I can't take care of my needs as well, I can't take care of her?
I think that goes back to the advocacy piece, right? Like that speaking up for yourself and making sure that it's understandable to everybody around you that you're important to yourself. And so if you're outlining, with kindness that I need to do this for myself and this is a boundary I'm setting, you know, that's always a positive. Putting yourself first is always a good idea. Now, there's trickiness to that because it sounds like somebody is being cared for in that scenario, right? So with boundaries in place, right? So I think that if somebody is a caretaker and they're doing setting boundaries, obviously you want to make sure that that person's also cared for too. So you have to it's a balance when you're a caretaker, right? And but you also have to know that your care is just as important as their care and how you can work together to make them both work.
And I do think, Karen, something you brought up earlier, the bubble exercise.
Yeah.
One way that I would manage my own response to whatever that person might say back to me is to acknowledge the fact that I have my needs and those needs aren't going away and I can't control how this person reacts. So whatever their reaction, I'm going to try to calmly take it in stride and just continue about my way. I know that for me, a lot of that anxiety of the fear about what people are going, how they're going to react, that's my fear. I'm generating that anxiety, right? And that's what I love about your bubble example. It gives me the control back to what I actually can control and lets me let go of what
Absolutely.
I can't, which are other people's responses, right?
Right. And even, I mean, the question is, am I wrong? Right. Well, that's another person's perception. So I'm not going to
Right.
tell you you're right or wrong because that shouldn't matter. What matters is that your needs are being met. Right. So,
Love it.
yes, absolutely.
I, it makes me think of the cognitive distortion of mind reading. Could you
Yes.
say a little about that, Karen, about mind reading and how it gets us into sticky situation? Stinking thinking is what my therapist called it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we create these different realities, right? And our anxiety runs with it and runs with it in a way that probably is just like creating a completely different story than what reality is actually happening. So I think, you know, to try to avoid that path of creating your own reality and really getting, you know, vulnerable and open with whoever it is that you're worrying about and how you're feeling. Communication is always best. Open communication. Yeah.
So,
I do want to remind folks that on Fridays, which is tomorrow, as we're recording this live, tomorrow we are open here at the Safe Cafe. We'll be open from 8:30 until 12:30. Come on by and have a cup of coffee if you just want some company. There's no pressure. It's just relaxed, but you are literally, no pun intended, in a safe space, and that's what we do. We One of the things that was helpful to me early on with my grief around the holidays was to know that there were people that saw me. And there's a sign right over my shoulder, you are not alone. We mean that. We know that there are plenty of people out there grieving losses around the holidays. We know that there's tension around the table. We know that there are seats there that are vacant. So if you're in the area and you want to stop by tomorrow, please do. We will be closed next week for the holiday, but then we're open every Friday, other than holidays from there on forward. So hope you'll join us.
so shifting a little from questions about boundaries, going back to the start of the presentation where we're talking about task management. Um, how how do I eliminate tasks when they just all feel necessary? Like can you give me some guidance on finding out what's not necessary, what can be put off, what can be delegated?
Yeah, I think that that is such an intricate question because it's hard to answer that without knowing, is it work balance? Is it work related things? Is it holiday related? I'm going to focus on the holiday just because that's what we're talking about, right? So, for example, it's about identifying, so just say, for example, you might have a party to attend and you have to bring a dish, whether that's a potluck dish or a cookie party or whatever it looks like, right? Um, and that's stressful to you around that is that you're excited to go, but like the act of actually bringing something is stressful because you just don't have time to make something. Being okay with releasing needing to make something from scratch and just running to the store and picking up a pre-made platter. It might cost a little bit more money, but like knowing that that's sort of a give and take that, it doesn't always have to be something that you spent hours baking for in the kitchen, right? Um, and so I think, without seeing a list and helping prioritize that, that's just something little that you can look at and say, like, okay, I need to shift my expectations of myself because I'm putting too much stress on myself to do the best thing here. This is what I've always done, so I have to make that famous cookie that I've always made. Well, no, you don't necessarily. People might miss it, but that's okay. Like it'll make it more exciting next time you make it, right? Um, so just identifying, you know, what parts of these tasks and activities really have to happen or that you're really putting it on yourself that it has to happen, right? And assessing that.
And thinking about kind of that self-assessment, what are signs people could look for, be aware of that the stress is becoming overwhelming, it is becoming too much, and it's time to take a step back?
Yeah, sure. I think that recognizing that you you have increased stress and anxiety, right? That's number one, right? Is noticing that you have this growing sort of need to just stay home and not do anything. Um, and the pressure and you're just not feeling like you want to do anything. That's a sign, right? Um, I think that it's important to identify like for yourself what your baseline is, right? And what your normal is. And then if things start to feel off, there's warning signs for that, right? Like so for example, um if you always attend your workout class on Saturday mornings and you've never missed one in the past, I don't know, 3 months, right? Um, but all of a sudden, the last 3 weeks you've missed because you just don't feel good. You're not feeling it. Physically, you don't feel well. Mentally, you don't feel well. That's a big sign of overwhelm, right? You're kind of pulling back. You're not able to attend to the things that you normally attend to. So it's definitely a sign of needing to say no more, right? And setting those boundaries. Um,
And that's such a good example too, because then here the person, the hypothetical is eliminating what was a self-care, because the burnout has caused them to retreat and quit going to the workout class.
right. Yeah. And I think identifying that like, you know, that's impacting the time. Like that workout class is your time, right? And so it's kind of this spiraling effect where if you're starting to pull back because of the overwhelm of everything you have to do and it's starting to impact the time you have for you, taking that away, although feels like you're debilitated to do it, right? Because you have so much other things to do, taking that self-care piece away can actually make things worse. So making sure that we're mindful about keeping those strategies in place through those and recognizing the warning signs and sort of making yourself, you know, get there regardless of how you're feeling about it, right? And just kind of pushing through so that you can give yourself that time for you. It's important.
Karen, one of the earlier strategies you mentioned was to be of service to other people.
Mhm.
And I have someone that just did it the other day. I should know it's coming every year. They themselves have experienced a tremendous amount of loss. So the holidays are always difficult. And she always calls me and a lot of other people right around the holidays just to check in to see how they're doing.
Mhm.
And when I said to her, I thanked her so much for what she was doing, she says, it wasn't for you, it was for me. It makes me feel better. And I thought that what a great way of looking at it, right?
Yeah,
So she literally just changed her reference point and said,
yeah,
I feel lousy, but I'm going to go out and change the lens on this and ask other people how they're doing. And by doing that, it made her feel better. I thought that was,
absolutely.
I think it's great.
Connection is so huge, and that's why I think it's important, like that piece I said about, if you feel like you don't have a village, please go out and find one because it is so important to find people around you to connect with. Um,
And toward that end, I'd just like to say, if I could for a minute, Karen, that
sure.
part of the family recovery unit is that we have support groups. And one of those support groups is for families who have a loved one, or I say families, it could be brother, sister, mother, uncle, aunt, any number of those connections, but family members in general and friends of those who are dealing with substance misuse or mental health challenges. So those families come in and meet every Tuesday night, and it's a great community of people. We're having a Friendsgiving dinner here in a few weeks. It's a group of people because of the circumstances that bring them together. It's kind of like one of them said, it's kind of like being on the Titanic. At the beginning of the voyage, when there were no trouble in the seas, people didn't want to mingle. But the minute they hit an iceberg and they have a common problem, their bonds were unbreakable. And that's what this is like. So it's really great to have those types of connections. We have them here at Safe. That's only one of them. We have other support groups, grandparents raising grandchildren. We have a sibling support group. We have activities and educational events up here. It's a great way to, as Karen said, make connection with people that I promise you'll never have to explain to them why it is you may be having a rough day or why you need support because we're all in this together. So I love that example of connection as a way to form support around yourself.
Yeah, it's so important, Jim. I'd say it's definitely, I love that you're plugging our programs because it is
Yeah.
really important to highlight, that you aren't alone, right, through this and everybody can come in and feel welcome and supported and managing, especially right now through the holidays, like I said, it's not the same experience for everyone, right? Holidays can be tricky and being okay with going into a room and saying, you know what, this isn't easy for me, but I'm glad I'm here. And I liked that comment you made, Jim, because you don't have to say much for people to just know, right?
And you've given us this amazing toolkit to help manage these stressors and beyond the holidays as well. But of course, there are situations that no matter how many boundaries we set, how many things we say no to, we still have to go do things we don't want to do or that make us uncomfortable or put us in a situation that maybe we have to encounter someone toxic. And so we kind of have to prepare emotionally for those situations. Do you have advice for preparing for those type of gatherings when you know there's going to be some type of conflict or toxicity that you'll have to face?
Of course, there's always one, right? Um, so I think it goes back to like knowing your limits, right? And identifying for yourself what you can comfortably handle and put up with for yourself. So if you're at a family gathering and there's something that happens that isn't sitting well with you and you really just need to take space, excuse yourself, go take space. Take a minute, do what you need to do for yourself to get yourself back to, baseline and then come back to it. If that means that you have to, end the visit early, that's okay too, and it just, limit setting and identifying where your own, kind of pre-plan in your head an exit strategy almost, right? And knowing that it's okay to do so.
Yes. Well, we have just a moment more. If anyone has any other questions, I have exhausted my list. Jim, do you have any other comments, questions before we start wrapping up?
No, I just, Karen, this has been fantastic. I know for me and I know for others as well. And AJ, thank you as always. Again, just an invitation to people to come up and check Safe out. We love seeing people walk into our doors. We know it's a hard walk at first, but it's a really friendly group. Nobody ever seems to leave here saying they they wish they hadn't come. So we just come check us out. We're at the Mosley Mill in Franklin. If you're familiar with Franklin, we're kind of off 140 in the Mosley Mill building, just above Berry Insurance. We have the top floor here, and it's by appointment all week long only. However, and you can certainly call into the front desk. And if you just want, if you don't know who you want an appointment with and you just want to check us out, you can just call in and let them know that, and a staff member will get back to you, and we'll arrange a time to meet with you. But on Fridays, it's just come on to the door. The door will be locked. You just ring the bell. We let you in. We have a nice warm cup of coffee on Fridays. It is an open house from 8:30 to noon, and just come in and get to know us. We'd love to know you. And even if you don't know what question, whether you have a question, but you're just interested, we'd love to see you. And like I said, at the outset, there's no charge for our services. We do have clinician here. You're looking at Karen, who is with us full time, seeing clients. And so we're able to do that. And a variety of other services, a big menu. If you go to our website, you'll see them all. So I just want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to thank you, Karen, for this great presentation. And as always, AJ, you for your orchestration. It's been phenomenal.
Thank you guys for having me. It was fun.
And I'm posting now in the chat a link to our page where we have the videos of our past webinars. We'll put the recording of this one there in just likely tomorrow, as well as we'll have a list of our upcoming webinars there. So please do join us in the future. If you missed any of today's recording or want to share it with a friend, that'll be available for you within the next day. And as Jim and Karen said, we're so happy you joined us and wishing you a happy holidays.
And before we end, I just want the person that shared their email address to know that I see it, and I'll be in touch. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
night. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Yes.